Welcome to Lesson 8 of the Alchemical Cabala, the current of Lamemed, justice. I am the goad of action, which impelleth and directeth the great ox of the breath of life. I am the power of equilibration, which holdeth Ruach in balance between formation and destruction. As a driver with his goad keepeth his ox from straying off the highway, yet is this directive power inherent in Ruach itself, for I myself am that great breath of life. And because that great breath existeth before all else, I am the leader, the chief, and the judge of all creatures. The wise find me thus concealed in Lamed. Let thy meditation bring thee to rest in that will. Then in the midst of action shalt thou be at peace, and in thy busiest hour shalt thou find the eternal worker doing all things well in thee. Lo, I guide thee all the way. Rest thou in me. Meditation on Lamed, the Book of Tokens. The first word we learned to read in these lessons was Father, as we read the word from the Book of Wisdom. Here's an image showing how those same letters that form the word Father, or Aleph Bet, Ab in Hebrew. This shows how those letters are positioned on the tree of life, their actual positions. So here we see the path of Aleph, the fool, which recall is the 0 key in tarot. Reflected on the other side of the tree, on the path, we see the path of the letter Beth, the magician, which in tarot is the number 1 tarot key, connecting the crown to Bina, understanding. Here is an image above, superimposed over the tree, showing William Blake's painting of the Ancient of Days. Portrayed here as the one self, initiating creation at the crown of the tree. He's doing so by the letters that form the word Father. These paths are exactly those Hebrew letters and exactly where they are positioned on the tree of life. So the first 2 paths at the top of the tree spell Father, and they are the 0 key and the number 1 key of tarot. Does everyone see this? Note that all of creation comes from the beginning of the combination of the tarot keys numbered 0 and 1. The letters that make Father. Has everyone here heard the term binary code?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. If you haven't, binary code is the code and the language that computers speak and that all technology today is programmed in. Literally everything we see and everything we hear on our televisions, on the screens of our TVs, our digital watch, our computers, and especially our phones Every image and sound that you perceive this way, behind this is nearly an endless array of combinations of zeros and ones, just like the Kabbalistic word for father. Which we will look again, the formula for father, the tarot. The same intelligence, the Ancient of Days, is always creating in like patterns, but endless adaptations. Creation comes from the perceived division or division of the one into the many. Just as the egg from the female, once fertilized, begins the process of creation through cellular division, because the one can never be more than its unity. So creation comes by division of the one. One of the most popular axioms in all of Kabbalah is this. It says, equilibrium is the basis for the great work. In the 3x7 layout, the justice key holds the absolute center of the 3x7 tableau. Now, the Fool is free. This is your eternal free self that exists before, during, after, around, everything. The sequencing of the 3x7 tarot is your journey through creation and back. The center of this book is literally the justice key. Right here. She is the exact center of the above and below of the vertical and the exact center of the horizontal. So what does this mean? It means that every intelligence and energy and aspect of all of creation that is represented in the Book of Wisdom here all flow through this current of justice. The zodiac sign of Libra and the scales. The universe is always moving itself towards balance. Finding our core center within ourself is the ultimate state of balance. This key is associated with the term karma. Now, we tend to have an incomplete idea for the meaning of the word karma in the West. It's often confused and interpreted with the old world concept of an eye for an eye idea of the old law. For example, if someone kills another person, the idea of karma is that they will experience a similar fate. But if this were how things really worked, there would be no hope of attaining liberation from that imaginary world, karma. For example, just musing on this logic of the old law. If someone killed a person, then another person would have to kill that person. And then because that person killed a person, someone's going to have to kill that person. And so on, and so on, and so on. Gandhi said that an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. This is the same logical conclusion of the old law and its interpretation. Fortunately for all of us, thank our Creator, Christ, the old law was overruled when Christ brought us grace through Christ Jesus, and the old law was completed. The word karma itself is from Sanskrit, and it means simply this: action or work. It is the sequence of perceived cause and effect. Notice that I said the word perceived. There's a balance in all things, but our ability to judge by our intellect is simply not a real possibility. This is why we must rely on the self to discern things for us. The statement, lean not on thine own understanding, comes to mind. Only the self sees and knows all through its creations. And this is where we go to for our wisdom. The idea of judgment in Kabbalah has nothing to do with morals or norms that each society accepts as their codes of conduct to keep some semblance of order, etc. It's the cosmic scales that are to be balanced within us. How true are we to ourself? In the East, there's a teaching, and the Kabbalah promotes the idea as well, that one should work towards one's goals with little or no attachment to the outcomes or the perceived results of one's labors. This is a very lofty idea, an ideal. But it's a truly liberating and very powerful position to be in if one adopts this attitude in their endeavors. It allows full focus and investment in one's work with a trust in the greater being that we exist within to see that what is beyond our scope of oversight is managed just as it should be, perfectly. The letter Lamed means yoke or goad. Most specifically, it means ox goad. It is the yoke of yoga or union of the little mind or the personal mind, which the personal mind is really just a collection of memories used to sustain a self-identification. Yoga unites this to the greater mind of the cosmos, starting with the sun and the life power itself. So let's look at this key, where it falls in the 4x5 layout, see what it has to tell us. In this view of the Book of Wisdom, interesting where Lamed falls. Remember where we saw how the Father's first focus is love? The lover's key, the Hebrew letter, is Zion, the sword that's being held right here. Now, let's look at this layout and see what we see in regards to Aleph, in regards to Lamed. Remember, Aleph means ox, and the letter Lamed means ox goad. As a verb, the letter Lamed means to teach or to instruct. Putting these two keys and letters together gives us one of the most powerful names or formulas in Kabbalah and Hebrew mysticism. It makes the name El, which is the God name associated with the fourth sphere on the tree of life, mercy and love. Note how all the Hebrew archangel names end in El. Mikael, Raphael, Uriel, Gabriel. Even the English word angel, angel, itself keeps this tradition. Angel technically means messenger of El, or generically messenger of God. In the West, we were raised to use the term or the word God as a very generic term for our Creator. This is fine, nothing wrong with this. The formulas, as given in the Hebrew letters for the names of God, are much more specific and accessible when utilized in the manner that the Kabbalah offers. So remember that whenever you would like more insight or connections and wish to meditate on a name or formula for our Creator, you can always do so by properly spelling the God name and laying out the tarot keys in that order that spell that aspect or name of God. These formulas have been around a long time and offer us a more tangible experience of the divine within us, rather than the generic words we have little interconnection with. Remember in the very first book of the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we see the Elohim, where it says, in the book of Genesis, it is said, the Elohim said, let us make man in our image. I'm pointing these things out to show the real import of learning the name El. There's a teaching that states that language often conceals more than it reveals. And that is an understatement. The tarot key for justice is the number 11 and is the sign of equilibrium and the zodiac sign Libra. How many times in our life have we seen, heard, or read the word 11? Probably countless times, right? How many times have we read this word? This is the number L even, 11. And the tarot key justice card shows us the one reflecting itself to itself. One import of this is that what we perceive, particularly the things that repeatedly attract our attention, are often good material for us to reflect on what that aspect in our life is attempting to teach us. This is why we question what life is showing us, why we must ignite, as Margot says, our curiosity. Again, reignite it, your passion for life. As Alice would say, curiouser and curiouser. We must develop the habit to ask life, what is it you want me to learn from this? And then watch and listen. The life power wants to be known. It wills to be known through you. Make it a habit to question everything that happens in your life. If you will make this a habit, start asking those questions, eventually You'll start asking those exact questions in your dreams. And that is when things will get really, really interesting. But to get there, we have to start here in the waking world, in this life, on the western side of the face of the cube, by practicing curiosity, childlike inquisitiveness about what we are seeing and not pretending we know. To enter the kingdom, we must enter as little children again. Developing this trust and conscious relationship with life itself by asking life, what's this about? As Margot likes to say, show me more. And this is a conscious decision to do every day. 2023, we can do this. This is why we learn to be receptive to that inner Ox Goad, the faithful intelligence that leads us throughout our path. Now, very simply, let's collectively read this holy name of our Creator from the Book of Wisdom. Looking at these keys together, just very simply, please one at a time, just at your will, unmute yourself and just state what occurs to you in this combination for the formula name L. Just what you observed.
For me, I get like this go and play and be free, and there's always something that's just gonna bring you back to center. To just like live your life, but there's always this force that will bring you back to reality, to center. I just feel that so innately when I see that.
Okay.
You can't do it wrong because it's something's gonna always pull you back to.
Okay. Thank you. The first thing that occurs to me in this combination is the vast openness of the full and the enclosed sanctum of the justice key. That's just what occurs to me at first. And it's like they're one thing, but they're both very distinct aspects. And I love how she's holding the scales right here at her heart.
It's like the Fool is like open to everything with its arms out. And she's like holding the balance right there. And again, just like she said, like bringing you to center in a way to your heart also, but it's from the openness, how everything's available to you to experience, and that you will find the balance in life or the equilibrium with when you do things and you make a misstep or whatever, and you learn from what you experience.
Thank you.
I'm looking at just the amount of God in the Fool key, that God protects us. He has his edge of protection around us, and like that we should live life, in abandonment to him and trusting through the sun up there, God being white, it's God, the sun, being surrounded by God's egg of protection. with the little dog, the playful dog of like living life to the fullest.
Mhm.
And that then through God and trusting in God, we find poise and balance in our lives. And you can see the little bit of God coming out in the bottom of the foot of justice key. God is
Mhm.
always there, and then emanates when we trust in God from ourself, when we're living in that poise and balance of being in one with God. And there's so much in these cards. It's amazing. The sword of discrimination, and the chalice at the heart, you know, through communion with God,
Mm.
we experience the true meaning of living, you know, our lives in knowing God. And yeah, there's just so much. It's really
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think Tracy wants to share on this, but she pointed out when we were going over this too. She saw the cup here too, the chalice made with the thing.
Oh,
Ah, yeah,
yeah,
Oh yeah, there's
yeah,
communion.
right.
nice.
So cool. You both picked that up. That's really nice.
Mm.
Is there anyone else wants to say anything?
What I see is she's holding up the sword, and to go past her to the light, which is where the Fool is, you have to pass her to get to the curtains are separated. The vastness of the mountains, the purple, are behind her. But to get to it, you have to have the discrimination of the sword. And you've got the 3 white dots on it. So the use of the law, and which is Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but it's being held up.
Yep.
And through action, which is red. So he's wearing the undergarment of red, and she's wearing over her red. So you actively have to do things. You cannot be the couch potato. You have to move out. And the curtains are held back by gold and red binding. And all of it is to reveal the inner self. But you have to pass through her and acquire her attributes to get there. And
Thank
then
you.
you know where the Fool is.
Thank you.
So you have to do this in action. And of course, you've got the little wallet of the red carried there, which is all of your soul's experience. But it's just, yeah, you have to make an effort.
Yes. Everyone notice the zeros and the ones?
Yes, unbelievable. That is so good.
Yeah.
You know, I see the beautiful figure in the Justice card as having a deep calmness in commanding the space and representing conscience. And the yellow behind her connects with the Fool card beautifully. And what Margot said was so beautiful. It just opened up the way Margot just described it. If she allows you past through justice, you're then in the divine under the sun directly in the Fool. And conscience, right? Doing what we know is right in action.
Yeah.
And seeing things with our heart.
She's clothed in red, but she's draped with green. Green is Venus, the color of love.
Love. Yes.
And
yeah, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say that the crown also is in green, which loving thoughts
Mhm.
versus
What we usually think.
well, I was going to say mechanical noise, static, right? Static.
Yeah, static. What I find interesting is a square of white with a circle of red in it.
Mm,
Yeah.
So we
super.
always think in terms of the square or the cube is manifestation, the 4 points or the 4 elements, but at the but they're purified because they're white. It indicates they're white. And then the fire or red, which is action, again. So purity through action. And of course, he's walking. Though she's sitting, he's walking. He's moving out with his eyes on the interior. So it's a very active. Of course, now that you brought up the zeros and the ones, I realize this permeates everything we do.
It does.
Yeah. But you have to move out. Experience. Experience seals it for you, not for someone else, and it can't be shared. It's yours that takes you there.
And you know that the square and the circle on her crown are clearly the square representing the 4 elements manifestation, created environment, planets, etc., and the circle, the eternal inner self, which has no beginning, no end. The square and the circle.
Yeah, and the square is purified because it's white.
Mm-hmm.
And the green cape draped over her shoulders is love is draped over the justice, which leads to, again, the union and to the God self within. But it definitely has to be draped in love.
And that's just what Eli said, grace. The old law is gone.
Yeah.
We now have grace. You don't have to kill someone to make it work.
Okay. All right.
Human race will just learn that. It'll be wonderful. We don't have to have wars, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it doesn't get you anywhere.
Enough of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank
Grace.
everyone for sharing on this, and you can use this combination in your own meditations and studies. Okay, I'm going to move on here to complete. So this name El shows us the action of the eternal life force or super consciousness of the full, the zero key, yoked and put into action by the justice key, the letter Lamemed. Meditation on this name or formula in the Book of Wisdom is an incredibly powerful formula that brings us into alignment with what is sometimes called the way or the Tao of the East. This cannot be put into words, but it can be received and experienced, as you no doubt have before, you are now, and will continue to do so. You can't really help but do so because you yourself, you are the way. We're just learning to wake up to that reality of ourself. This is why the master said, I am the way. This simple formula and the justice key keeps us on track and brings us back towards the center of the path if we have veered too far one way or another. As you meditate on this key each night, you will get a better idea of what is meant here. This key will guide you from within and without. So pay attention to what shows up for you. The main figure in the justice key, holding the sword of discernment in her right hand, She's cutting away what is out of balance and simultaneously creating by division. This is the purpose and the function of Gevurah, the fifth sphere on the tree of life, the sphere of severity and volition, which this path connects to the central sun, the heart of the tree. I think Margot and you pointed this out well, so did Doug. This at the center of her crown is the double tattva, which shows the red circle of activity within the white square, the purified tattva of the earth. So we see the activity of the mind inside the divine will's activity in the earth. And it's at the mind's eye area of the crown of the super subconscious, seen here as Lady Justice. Your subconscious knows exactly what this means and what to do with it. Trust your inner guidance from self. Libra is ruled by Venus. Margot brought this up, which is love. And the sword is Saturn, which is exalted in Libra. See how it's being raised. Saturn is the limiting function of Bina. Under her red cloak of action or severity, she wears the blue undergarment. This means that she is coming from the sphere of mercy. She's ruling from that sphere, but putting it into action. She only wields the sword from love, no matter what the appearance may appear to be. The intelligence assigned to this key is called the faithful intelligence. On the cube, Lamemed connects the northwest, or is the northwest current. Is everyone muted? Lamemed is the northwest current on the cube of space. So what this means, here we are. What this means is she connects the north, the key of the tower of spiritual awakening, to the west, the key of the wheel of fortune, or the third dimensional world. She also descends on the cube. The current descends from above to below. So what you can expect, the energies at work here are spiritual awakenings, overthrowing of outworn forms in your life, in the world, going from the self-conscious down deep in the subconscious as we traverse this current. Here's the text from the Book of Formation on Lamemed. It says, the 22nd path is the faithful intelligence and is so called because by it, spiritual virtues are increased and all dwellers on earth are nearly under its shadow. So looking again at the God name El, we see the super consciousness of the fool stepping towards the goad of action, bringing about equilibrium. In the Alchemical Cabala, we're concerned with, quote, what works. So on a related note here, I want you to note for yourself that as you proceed down your own path of tarot and the study of Kabbalah, if you ever wish to supercharge your meditation or any tarot key in particular, once you know the function aspect of that tarot key, you can always add the Fool key to the key you're working with. And you will have a greater influx of light from your superconscious self. Alchemically, you're simply giving your subconscious instructions to incorporate the superconscious that the Fool key represents. This is one reason the Fool key in tarot is not designated to any particular number or place in the tableau and is said to exist between, around all of the keys. So just put that little piece of knowledge in your backpack and use it as you see fit. Okay. Almost there. From Jewels of the Wise on page 131. Love not in word or speech, but in deed and truth. This is basically telling us to put our love and faith into our actions. And faith without actions is dead. One great teacher would often say, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. We note that this path of justice connects the sphere of action on the tree of life to the central self of the sun. Another jewel from Jewels of the Wise on Lamemed says this: true education is not the accumulation of facts or theories or of degrees. It has the purpose of bringing one back through experience into contact with the true source of all wisdom. This is precisely what Tarot and Kabbalah are bringing us to the point where we are reconnected consciously with our true source. The more we work with and immerse ourselves in the keys, the cube and the tree, the more we are opening to our deeper whole self, our holy self. So happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. This concludes lesson 8 of the Alchemical Cabala and the Cube of Space. And the floor is now open for any questions or comments.